Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to my channel, The Focused Millennial. This is your one-stop shop for high quality leadership and entrepreneurship content. And if you are new to this channel, my name is Nsako. I am a leader and I'm also an entrepreneur. And here on this channel, I like to share lessons from my experiences running a business and leading teams. So I hope that you subscribe to the channel if that's the kind of content that you like. And if you're already subscribed, welcome back. So today we're speaking about a very important leadership topic. It's a topic that is addressed quite often, but I would love to also contribute some of my learnings and bring in some of the lessons from different videos for your viewing and learning pleasure. So let's get to it. We're talking about how to become a better decision maker. That's right. Effective decision making is an important part of leadership, and I want you to master it. And this video is the starting point. So make sure you watch this until the end. So as we get older, the decisions that we have to make become increasingly complicated. Not to mention the impact of those decisions becomes more and more severe with time, right? I'm sure we've all heard that the decisions that we make today have an impact on our own futures. Now, as a leader, that pressure is compounded because the decisions that you make today not only have an impact on your own life, but also on the life of the people that you're leading. So here in this video, I want us to develop a framework. So it's a decision-making framework that will help us get to high-quality decisions consistently. Now, I'm going to share 6 tips and I hope that you enjoy them. Okay, so tip number 1. If you want to become a more effective decision maker, then you have to allocate the appropriate time for each decision. Now, this point speaks to setting a deadline for the decision. This is very important and not a lot of people do this. And when you don't set a deadline and allocate time proportionately for each decision, then you can find yourself either procrastinating or getting stuck in what they call analysis paralysis. So I want us to get good in terms of understanding, all right, is this a big decision for me to make? Because if it is, then you need to give yourself enough time and enough room to make a very high quality decision. And then if it's a small decision that you need to make, then you need to develop the skill of being able to make those decisions quickly. And the good thing is that when you make those small decisions quickly, it ultimately frees up more time for you to spend more time on those big decisions. Now, this is an area that a lot of people go wrong because for the really big decisions, the important ones that will have a long-lasting impact in someone's life, people usually rush into those decisions. And for example, that's like buying a house, buying a car, a really long-term commitment. But then when it comes to small decisions, things like what am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to wear today? People tend to, take a disproportionate amount of time making those. So you end up wasting time. So the first thing is allocating time proportionately for the decisions that you have to make. All right. So the second tip is a very important one, but it's often understated. And that is, checking your mental state before making a decision. Now, I believe that this is a huge reason why a lot of really great leaders end up making bad decisions. It isn't because of incompetence or, just malicious intent. Quite often it's because people are actually not in a healthy place when they're making their decisions. So they don't have a clear perspective on the short-term and the long-term impacts of the decisions that they have to make. So I want to advise you that before you have a really big decision to make, it's super important for you to check in on yourself and see if you are in a good position to make a high quality decision. And if you're not, then try and buy yourself more time, or perhaps, even give the decision to someone else to make within your organization. But your mental state is super important. You want to be in a sound state in order to make a sound decision. So that is the second tip. Now, the third one is very practical. If you have to make a decision, it is super important that you are able to identify all the various options that are at your disposal when you want to make a decision. And, a common phrase that you hear people saying is, I didn't have an option, or I only had one option. And, I don't believe in that. I believe that people who don't have options are people who don't have information. So you want to gather more information if you feel as though you don't have much options. Now, that can come either through the form of, reading up more on the context of the decision that you have to make, or it could be speaking to someone. And that is actually, something that I always do. I never make a big decision that'll impact my life in the long term without consulting, a group of people that I trust. So when you get more perspectives, you will find that more options start to open up in front of you. And when you've laid out all of the options, it is then very important that you start to do some scenario planning. That's what they call it. And what all that is that you are exploring each of the options conceptually or hypothetically, and asking yourself, if I selected that option, what would then happen? Right? Consider the worst case. What's the worst thing that can happen with this option? What is the best thing that can happen in the option, with this particular option? And do that for all of them. And in the process of doing that, you're going to start to realize, okay, which options are sounding better than the others, right? Now that leads me to the third point, a third tip that I want to share. And that is, consider alignment with your values and your purpose. Now, people who know who they are and they know what they stand for are less likely to take an option that is completely against, their values and their purpose. So this is a way of filtering out bad options and keeping the ones that, you can actually live with because they're consistent with your core values. So I want to encourage you, if you're not somebody who's very self-aware, it's important to build up that skill because it ultimately will help you in your decision making. So consider alignment with your values and your purpose. Fifth one that I want to share with you, and this is a really neat trick to help you in, to make a decision in a very high pressure situation. And that is trying to remove yourself from the situation. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but listen to me on this. Whenever you have to make a decision and you feel as though there's a lot of, external circumstances or pressure that's making it difficult, I want you to be aware. So be mindful of yourself in that situation, and then almost remove yourself, as though you're observing yourself within that position from a third person view, and then try and advise yourself similar to a way in which you'd advise a friend. Have you ever experienced that moment where a friend is asking you for advice? Sometimes it's even for, a problem or a situation that you're currently experiencing yourself. But because you are removed from the consequences of that situation, you're able to give really good advice, right? And you even shock yourself with how wise your advice is. Well, that is what this can do for you. If you can remove yourself from the situation, then you're much, you're in a good vantage point to be able to give advice to yourself. This has worked for me multiple times in the past, and I believe it can work for you too. So that is the fifth tip. Try and remove yourself from the situation. Now, the sixth and final tip I want to share is to emphasize on quality over quantity. Now, this is a really big topic, and I'm going to even, release a follow-on video to this one where I focus on this particular point, And the reason why is because a lot of leaders fall into the trap of making too many decisions. They just want to make all the decisions themselves within their organization. And because of that, they open up the likelihood of making the wrong decision, much more. And I want to encourage you to not focus on quantity, but on quality. And Jeff Bezos puts it best when he says that as a leader, your responsibility is to make 1 or 2 really high quality decisions per day, and not, thousands of mediocre ones, which is what we tend to do. So I want us to focus on the quality of our decisions and not the quantity. But again, I address that in a separate video. So those are the 6 tips that I believe will help you become a better decision maker in your personal capacity, but also in the capacity as the leader of your team. All right, now, before we jump off this video, I just wanted to, just add 2 more points that I believe are super important to remember when you have to make a decision that will really help you become more effective. And the first one is that when you do make a decision and you decide, okay, this is what we're going for, this is the option that makes the most sense, it aligns with our values, it is really important for you to go in that direction with conviction. Don't do this thing where you are entertaining 2 or 3 options in parallel with the hopes that maybe you'll diversify yourself or your chance of success. You have to pick a direction and go with it, right? But I'm going to put a disclaimer. Go in that direction until a point where you realize for sure that you're wrong. And if you get to that place where you realize, okay, hold on, I made the wrong decision, I made the wrong call here. At that point, it is very important for you to stop, acknowledge that you've made the wrong decision, and start course correcting. Leaders, there is nothing wrong with making the wrong decision and owning up for it and changing the course of action as soon as possible. I see too many leaders tethering themselves to decisions that they made when they had less information or when they were less wise, and because of some promise they made to themselves way back when, they're still now in this situation where they're in a course that is ultimately destined for failure. So as leaders, we need to learn that you can make bad decisions, and that's okay. And Gary Vee articulates this when he says, deciding sometimes means losing. You will get them wrong, guys. It's a part of the journey. And that brings me to the second thing that I think you need to remember. And that is that as a leader, you are responsible for setting the tone for how decisions are made in your organization. So it's important to create a healthy culture where people feel safe enough to take bold decisions without the fear that making the wrong decision could cost them their career. Making decisions and failing in decision making is a part of learning and ultimately a part of success as well. And Tom Griffiths puts this best in his wise words, where he tells us that ultimately you have no control over the outcome of a decision, but you do have control over the process that you use to make a decision. So as long as you follow the best process, or in our case, decision-making framework, then you know that you've given it your best shot. All right, I hope that this was useful, and I hope this helps you become a better decision maker. All right, if you enjoyed that, please like the video and subscribe if you want more content like this. And also invite a friend, somebody who you think would benefit off this content. We love to grow, we love to learn together and be more focused. But until the next one, stay focused.